Well, g'day everybody. So a bit of a quick shuffle there. I was just got off the phone from Sterner actually. Just then they called. I've got four phones here beside me, and we had a bit of a thing last night. There's something going. Everything's fine on board with Sterner. Everything's good, but they've got a bit of an issue with their chart plotter, come AIS receiver. The idea is that each of the entrants in the Ocean Globe Race has an inflatable life jacket safety harness combination. And there is a small AIS personal beacon. It's called a PAB, Personal AIS Beacon. And that when the life jacket inflates, the PAB activates automatically and sends an AIS signal to the boat. The alarms go off. If someone's in the cockpit steering, each of the boats has to have an alarm or a button they press, and that automatically links to the man overboard button on the chart plotter at the chart table. So they have a GPS coordinate to go back to recover that person in the water. And they had an incident early hours of this morning at about 2:30 this morning, our time, local. We took the call on the emergency line, and they were reporting that it appeared that four of their beacons had been activated inadvertently because there were signals coming up on their AIS chart plotter arrangement in the cockpit. And we had some issues with Neptune with the similar beacons, and those particular ones have a combination of a PLB plus an AIS in the one beacon. And we immediately had to alert rescue coordination centres that a PLB had been activated inadvertently, and it's actually 4 times on Neptune. So we were a bit skeptical. Anyway, so Melissa called and told us, hey, look, it looks like that's the case. So all was good. We had early notice. We immediately contacted the Chile Rescue Coordination Centre and also New Zealand Rescue Coordination Centre, but they hadn't received any signals at all. And so subsequently, looking at the issues, Melissa sent us another report saying it's still ongoing. They're getting these reports of AIS signal. And so we asked them to ring, and they just rang just before we got on air here. And we had a big chat about it, and it looks as if it is absolutely a problem with the AIS receiver and chart plotter arrangement on the boat, because none of the combination AIS beacons with a PLB as well are showing any sign of activation, and the MRCCs haven't seen anything as well. So just an interesting story. But everything's fine on board with Sterner. They're all happy. They're sailing really well. Looking forward to getting Cape Horn and getting to Punta. So that's cool. So that's, I literally hung up 30 seconds before I pressed the button here. Excuse me. So it's the 7th of February. Still no news from Penduic and Marie and their team. We're looking forward to hearing from them and maybe getting some photos and videos of their Cape Horn rounding. As soon as we do, we'll get that up, and we'll look forward to seeing it. It was a bit of fun yesterday with Translated, of course, getting around. They got their material to us, and it was really good to see. Quite exciting. And the next one round will be made, but we'll talk about that in a minute. There's some interesting tweets coming through. Always good to follow and see what's happening. And I think that's the main one. So I think we'll go straight to the tracker now and see what's happening. Okay, so here we go. I set this up a little bit before, so I'll just see if everything is still current. Yep, 1600 position reports. So here we go. And right at the back of the fleet, just speaking to Sterner, I'll drop that down a little bit. All plain sailing, good solid westerlies here. And it's 7.5 knots for Explorer, 186 mile day. And Sterner is 7.8 knots, 186 mile day, exactly the same. So Explorer is now currently heading for the waypoint. I hope they get it. And there's a bit of a blow coming through, but we've checked it out on. I'm just going to show you this. Checked it out on windy, and it's going to gust to about 32 knots. And the thing is, it's just a building gust, but you can see it. If I, hang on a sec, they're not there yet. That's back on today's weather. I wasn't quite on on the right sequencing there. So that's the weather they've got today. Sterna's, good, solid, little bit north of west, turning into a northwesterly, and it's going to go over the top of them. So I'll just hide the rest of the fleet so you don't get distracted. But if we just push this through, you'll see there's that little puff coming over Explorer and then running over Sterna, but it's going to pick up to about gusting 40 knots. Forecast wind about 32 knots, and the sea state's holding pretty much at about 4 or 5 meters. So still solid Southern Ocean weather leading into Cape Horn, but certainly not storms. And you can see it comes across there also for the mid-fleet, but I digress. So now we will have a look here. That little low pressure system has dropped down below the fleet for now and not causing too many issues. Again, pretty much nice sailing all the way through. And Evrika doing 8.3 knots, 182 nautical miles. They've got an issue with their boom. You may have heard the sound cloud. It's worth listening to. They have damaged their boom, but they've done a temporary fix, and they're going to try and sort the rest of it when they're here in Punta del Este. Outlaw is 8.5 knots, 192 mile day. Again, solid sailing. This is exactly what they've been looking for, Southern Ocean stuff. So all pretty good. 192 miles for White Shadow, 8.6 knots. And it's a bit softer for them now, a bit of a wind shift from the northwest down to the west, and then it's going to come through at southwest. So the waves may be a little bit confusing there for a while. The Esprit de Keep, 9.3, still got the pressure on, 209 mile day, not too bad at all. In a northwesterly that will also in the next number of hours swing around to the southwest. Triana lagging a little bit behind the others there in the group, but still doing okay. The rest of the group came up a bit, but doing 8 knots and 166 nautical mile day. There were some soft patches in there because at one stage Spirit of Helsinki and Neptune were only doing like 4.5 knots. They were just drifting. Maiden got a break, managed to get away and increase the lead. So this group here, which I've been calling the Maiden group, is stretching out a bit. So all kind of interesting. 9.7 knots, 186 nautical mile day for Spirit of Helsinki. Neptune, 8.9 knots, 173 mile day. They both got bogged down in the hole. Maiden, 10.3 knots and 210 mile day. She managed to keep sailing all the way through. So, but it's still pretty interesting, when you think about it. You stop and think for a minute. Okay, Spirit of Helsinki is a big, powerful Swan 651, big German Frères design, super duper powerful, and there's the Maiden girls. Quite a jump, 60 miles in front. That's cool. So, next stop is Cape Horn. So, Maiden's got now about 100 miles to go. And if you say that's going to be 10 knots, and they probably will maintain that 10 all the way through, that's only 10 hours from now. So that's going to be about 2 o'clock UTC tomorrow. If this is that right? No, 1600. So that'll be 2600, which is 2 over 400. So about 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be a nighttime rounding for Maiden, and then sometime tomorrow. So that'll be the 8th. And then being 60 miles behind, these guys doing 6 or 7 hours. So they'll be through in daylight. They'll be through sort of 9, 10 o'clock in the morning UTC. So that's not too bad. They should be just into the daylight. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see. We'll follow it through, that's for sure. So get rid of that. And then we'll come around here. This is where it gets interesting for Penduic and Translated. They both went through Stretto de la Mer here. They were down at 4 knots when they were going through. That may have been the current going against them, as well as a bit of a light patch, because it was pretty light once they went around. Sea State's now dropped off to nothing, but they got a truckload of breeze up the front here. And I looked at that to see if I needed to give them a weather alert, whether they're going to drive into it, but you'll see what happens in a minute as they move forward. It all blows apart a bit and gets a bit softer. So currently not sailing super fast, 6 knots, 114 mile day, because there's some soft patches there. Translated 9, doing 8.6 knots and 138 mile day. So very patchy, but they're neck and neck still. So that's kind of interesting. And now we've done the weather on the rest of it. So I'm just going to roll this through now, and you'll see what happens, particularly with Penduic and Translated, that as they move forward. It starts to come towards them, so that's an E6. So in 4 hours' time, Penjuru could be very close, but then it instantly blows itself apart. So the maximum forecast wind that we're looking there is only about 30 to 31 knots, 32 knots, but still gusting 40 knots. And the maximum sea, even when it was down here, was about 3.5 metres because it's blowing off the coast, not the huge Southern Ocean swells that you're used to. So conditions are a lot more manageable. And where will they go? Well, by the time this is happening, it's up here. If we look back at the big picture, I'll just talk about the 2 leaders for the moment. That's a little bit too big. That's where they're going. They're heading up to Punta. They'll probably ride with that. I'm not sure what forecasting they're getting now. Sometimes there is a WeatherFax map that comes out for this part of the world from the Chilean side, but it's they transmit, but it's very weak transmitter they've got. So I'm not sure whether they'll be getting anything there. They may still be in touch with Passage Weather. They could be getting stuff out of Brazil, worded forecast for the high seas, but we'll have to wait and see. If they've done their homework, and they may have, there's fantastic forecasting coming out of the Falklands. The Brits will actually be sending stuff out there, but I'm not sure whether some of them are onto that or not. So I think they'll just follow this heavier wind and make ground. Get up there, just keep pushing through on the run line, pretty much direct, straight up. And if we look at that for an ETA, while we're focusing on it, you see it's going to be very challenging. So this is on the 8th, going through to the 9th. Big holes there. Going to be quite a story trying to push through here, because then when you get a bit further in, ideally you'd come around wide, okay, and try and hold this breeze, but it's still a bit risky. If you try and go straight up, you're going to have this predominantly northerly airflow, which is on the nose, and if you come across on Port Tack, you're driving into the middle of it. So this is only 3 days away, and that's basically in 3 days. If they're doing 150-mile days, it's 450 miles. It's right up where they are. They're going to be in here in about 3 days' time. So they've got a few challenges there, and that's tempering the ETA that we've been suggesting for them to make for Punta. And let's just keep pushing this along. So there's the 10th. Then it gets a little bit more. If you're down here, they've got plenty of headwinds again. Then you've got another system forming here, another low-pressure system. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So we're now saying that they probably may not make it by the 14th. They'd have to be halfway up by then. It may be more like the 15th. And there's a big celebration here for the Yacht Club Punta del Este on the 14th. And you can see here even, there's the 11th. It's still potentially challenging to get up there. They're going to have some real issues to deal with. So there's the 12th, headwinds again, light stuff, but it is hooking around a bit. Depends on exactly where you are. And they might get a sudden lift just at the end and boost it through. But gut feeling that it's probably going to be the 15th now before they get up there. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, we'll pull that back and we'll just look at the approach to Cape Horn. I'm trying to speak a little bit slower here for those that are following it through. So that's the weather today. Fantastic, beautiful westerly here in mild conditions for this part of the world, and only 100 miles to go. So the wind's going to increase a bit, but nothing they can't handle. Then it's going to go soft a little bit. And again, nothing over the forecast wind over 30 knots, which is quite surprising. Then it's going to come through with a bit of a push. This is tomorrow, but it's by then the mid-fleet will be pretty much all around, so they'll miss even this little puff here, and that's running at about 33, 34 knots, gusting 40, 45. They'll be around by that, and they'll be into this shadow. So everyone will be pushing through. They'll miss all of that. That's by tomorrow, like tomorrow night. So, and they'll all be around by then. And they might get a kick up the Derriere, but it's all focusing around Cape Horn, and they'll be up through there. So this maiden group will get around very nicely in that period. Meanwhile, the Galiana group, this group here, will be sailing in pretty good conditions again. It's northwesterly, so the sea doesn't become huge. there'll be a cross swell, but the seas will be like 6 meters or so, and blowing, blowing 30s, low 30s, gusting 40s, maybe 45, puffing up. But it's all pretty soft and all very achievable for the second group. And you'll see them come through. They're currently 24 hours behind. So if we've got the maiden group coming through tomorrow or during tomorrow times, which is Thursday, you'll see the Galiana group probably Friday night, Saturday sometime around Cape Horn, and then the Sterna and Explorer are going to be sometime later. So how's the racing going? Let's just check the leaderboard. Line honours: Penjuic, Translated, Maiden, Spirit of Helsinki, Neptune, Triana, all very straightforward. ETAs are of interest because these ETAs are based on the current average speed, VMG speed, and that's from the start in Auckland, which is really impressive. They've been making 8.7 knots, 8.7. So they've been averaging 8 knots pretty much all the way from Auckland, which is pretty cool. I remember when I went around in the BOC, 8 knots was the big figure. I told people, I was only sailing 8 knots all the way around, but to maintain an average speed of 8 knots is quite fast. So it's suggesting the 13th for the lead boats, but they'll slow down. Their average speed will drop when they got those headwinds and the big holes. And that's why I'm thinking more like 14, 15, and that'll be probably similar for the others as well. Anyway, we'll just pass that, go down to IRC. So Translated has IRC at 32 days, 21 hours. Next closest is Triana, which is 35 days, 11 hours. So that's 2, 3, that's a couple of days. A little bit under a couple of days. Then another day and a bit later is Penjuic. So Penjuic's still holding third. So they've slowly creeping up there. Not too bad. Then Neptune is just hours away from Galiana with Secure, 2 hours to be precise. And then another 6 hours or so, 6, 7, 8 hours to Maiden. And then White Shadow. So all interesting stuff as well. Okay, I think that's, let's just, it's amazing, I don't talk about that much because everyone knows what's going on and it gets hard to keep up with, but there's the Global Solo Challenge is all heading around Cape Horn as well. They've got boats spread out from Australia up to the Azores just about at the moment. Their fleet is very highly strung. And we've got a couple of Ultims going around, you still would have seen the photos there for that, which is kind of fun, but certainly very busy. And it's a bit scary in a way. Because not scary, but it's amazing. Yeah, quite amazing. And then the Clipper race is on as well. So there's 4 around the world races on right now as we speak. What I was going to do was just have a look at the Southern Ocean in total. It's always good to see what's happening, and it's all the way across the Pacific Southern Ocean. Only one bit of a system there, which is amazing. And now we come back to the good old South Atlantic high here. Not happening yet. It's not happening yet. That's a big low. This is the start of the South Atlantic high, but it's probably a bit funny time in the season. But you can see very benign up there as well. That's in the future. Right now, just all westerly. So all good fun. Okay, I'm going to come back now and say g'day, if I get this right. Yep. Back again, and let's just see what we got here. Hi, John. Not on current weather. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was at the very beginning, but I got back there pretty quick. Please ask for rig and wake shots. Rig and wake shots. Rig and wake shots. Okay, they want to see the wake in the water. Let's see. On time today. Good on you, Nigel. So exciting. Thank you for allowing this, all this precious event. Yeah, the coverage is kind of fun. There's plenty to follow. I'll just bring up a very interesting thing that's happening in a minute with the Bayonet platform. The Bayonet platform is actually up online, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, checking in from Waveland. G'day, Tina. Cape Horn's coming. Yep, the fleet's doing really well. So, and there'll be quite a few excited sailors. Someone asked the question, how many have been there before? There's only about 3 people that have ever gone around Cape Horn before, 3 or 4. Jewick and Translated have been better to have followed the rum line and sailed east to the Falklands. No, not at all. No, they've called it pretty well where it is. And to cut through the stretch of Little Mare is good. And right now the weather's easily dictated to leave the Falklands leave it to starboard as you go past. So passing on the west side of the Falklands looks like a good thing to me. That's where I'd be if I knew the weather. So, okay, that's it. So thank you, and we will see you again tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some stuff from Penjuic. As soon as we do, we'll get it up and see how we're doing. Thanks for that. See you later. Oop, I pressed the wrong button. Never mind, you're not